right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Artist Well. This is our 74th episode. And as I say, it's your weekly source of inspiration, enlightenment, and connection with artists throughout Ireland and beyond. And also a little, touch of, what would you call it, escapism during the week. And we could all do with a bit of that, I guess. Now, as I've started doing in the morning before we introduce our guest, we have a sort of a notice board of what's going on with artists who have featured on the Artist Well. So the first thing I want to mention is that Eamon Coleman is giving a talk at the closing of his solo exhibition at 2:30 p.m. today in the Solomon Gallery, if you can get into that. Bill Griffin, who is supposed to open an exhibition today in the Unitarian Church, Princess Street, Cork, has deferred that for a couple of weeks. So I'll let you know when that starts again. That'll be a good one. As you know, today is the day that the broadcaster Charlie Bird has asked us to walk up Croagh-Patrick, or indeed any hill that happens to be near you. And that's happening this afternoon. There are quite a lot of people involved, a lot of artists involved. And in fact, Charlie asked Tim Goulding if he would kindly do a painting, which you can see here, to commemorate the event. And that's Croagh-Patrick and Charlie in the background. And he's asking people to contribute to the Motor Neuron Disease Association and Pieta House. And Charlie has donated this painting to the Sligo Town Hall. Then the last thing I want to mention is an exhibition that's going on in the United Arts Club. Two things actually that's going on. Firstly, today is the final day of an exhibition, a retrospective of Una Waters' work, an Irish artist. And she was born in 1918 and died very young at 1968, I think it was. Her work is absolutely phenomenal. It's rarely seen. Anyone who's been to the exhibition has raved about it. And there was a closing event last Wednesday in the club. And there was a talk given by Roisin Kennedy, who's a lecturer in art history in UCD. And I filmed it and I incorporated all of the works that are being shown. So if you can't get into it today is the last day, please look up that video. You'll see it in the United Arts Club Facebook page or in the profile on Instagram. There's a link there and you click that and it'll bring you to YouTube. So it's not public, it's a private one. So you need that particular link in order to find it. But it's about half an hour and it's well worth it. It's a great insight into this little known but extremely good artist, combined with all her works in the video. So do have a look at that. Okay, so our guest this morning, we're going down to Kilcock Art Gallery in County Kildare, because this is the opening, or this afternoon will be the opening of her exhibition. And I think you'll enjoy her work when we see it later on. So let's go down straight away and say hello to Josephine Grant. Good morning, Josephine.
Hello, Alan.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good. So you're down there in the gallery this morning. A bright and early start for you.
Absolutely, yes. A bit early for me.
I know, a bit early for a lot of us. So listen, before we get into your work, let's talk about your childhood, because you've kind of been all over the world on your travels. But your father was American, isn't that right?
Yes.
So tell us the story. You were born in England.
I was born in England during the war.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened to be where my parents were. My father was American, but he joined up. He joined up in the Irish Guards. Mm-hmm. And but I didn't really know him because he was killed when I was 3.5 in Normandy.
Right.
So then a few years after the war, my mother remarried and came back to Ireland. Okay. And where did you live in Ireland? Eventually in County Wicklow, mm-hmm. Place called Glendara, up the hill from Newton on Kennedy.
Right, okay. And where did you go to school?
First of all, before that, went to the convent in Wicklow for a year.
Yeah.
And then when we moved up, halfway up a mountain, we were sent to boarding school in Dublin, in the Hall School in Monkstown.
Yes, okay. And was that a good time of your life? Do you remember it fondly or not?
The curate's egg, hardly. It was a very dark building, which I think affected my mood quite a bit.
Yes.
And there were a few sort of moments where you felt a bit bullied, but I think I was happier in the next school I went to, which was in England.
Okay. And how come you went back to England?
Well, my grandmother had a say in where we got educated, and she felt schools in England were better. Whether or not that was true, I don't know. So we went to a Parents' National Educational Union school in Northamptonshire.
Yes, yes.
And
was that a secondary school?
That was secondary school.
Yeah.
I was about 11 when I went.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And after school there, did you come back to Ireland or did you stay?
I basically came back to Ireland, yes.
Okay. All right. And did you embark on any sort of studies, college studies or anything like that?
Yeah, but I was too young to start with. So what I did was teach my younger brother, who was 6.5. I'd been taught at school, including Latin, French, and whatever. And then after that, I did a series of fairly unrelated courses, some of them dictated by my mother and some that I wanted to do. So I had to do a secretarial course because in those days, they kind of said to you, go and have a little job, dear, and then get married.
Yes.
So I did a year secretarial at Alexandra College. I was at art school in Canterbury for a few months, which is what I really wanted to do, but I wasn't able to kind of express this very well. And I was sent to Domestic Science College as well. Then I spent 6 months in California with my grandparents, where I did more art. And 6 months in Switzerland, being an au pair. And
all right.
Being French, yeah.
Yeah. So you're fluent French?
Yes. I was always keen on keeping up with French. I enjoyed it at school.
Yeah.
And so that was somewhat of an opportunity to do that.
Okay. And what sort of jobs did you do when you were in Ireland before you went to Canada?
Well, I did various secretarial and bookkeeping jobs. At Jules on the Green, I don't know if anybody remembers Jules on the Green or is old enough to remember. You do you? It was on the corner of Stephen's Green and very kind of upmarket hairdressers and barbers and
all right. Yes. Yeah.
And I sat in a little box at the back and took the money and did bookkeeping on a large, very new for the time, ledger machine.
Yes. And were there no suggestions of you being an artist at this stage? I mean, or were you doing art in your part-time?
I was always drawing a bit.
Were you? Yeah.
But there was no suggestion that I had in my own kind of secret mind that I wanted to go to the Courtauld Institute, but I never dared mention it to anyone. And I had very little confidence in myself.
Right.
I think that my grandmother had a large sense and felt that the only thing worth doing was academic work.
Yes.
And I did qualify to go into Trinity, but I refused out of stubbornness because my grandmother and my mother were arguing about what I should do. And I basically said, sod the two of you, really. And decided to do my own thing.
Right. And what was that?
Well, to start with, it was to earn money. Yeah. And be independent. Leave home and be independent, go into a flat in Dublin and support myself.
Okay.
I got one job after another, just getting more money each time.
And what sort of jobs would you have got?
Well, the first one was in the National Children's Hospital in Harcourt Street. Dog's body in the front office.
Right.
I was there for a year and got sacked by Colonel Newman because I lost a letter. Yeah. It's important to his status. I was accused of losing it. I had no memory of losing it, but never mind. So then, you know, you had to go home, or I didn't go home, I went to the flat and write letters of application and wait for them to be answered and wait for the interview and so on, which always took 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But then, you know, to get another job, and so it was always, and one was in an insurance office doing motor insurance. It was that I did a modelling course.
All right.
The motor department was upstairs, away from everybody else. So I was teaching the head of the department how to walk down the ramp. So it was a lot of fun, but then, and the job was temporary.
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask you how long you lasted in that one.
Well, the boss called me down to give me a test for a permanent job.
Yeah.
Standard typing, which I passed. And so he offered me a permanent job. A week later, he called me down again and said, I'm rescinding the offer because you're only going to go off and get married.
Oh.
Yeah.
Charming.
Yes. So I had to go and get another job. So I ended up working for Protim, which was like Rent-A-Kill, Eli Place, and living in Fitzwilliam Place. So I could just gallop round the corner, really, just about for 9 o'clock every morning.
Yeah.
But that was the kind of job I liked because there weren't many people there and I had lots of responsibility.
Yes, very good. And were you there for long before you?
Well, then I was there for a year and I got married.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
I married a Canadian who was a student at Trinity.
Yes.
And my sister was there too. So I was, you know, I had boyfriends there and so on. So, so I married him and went off to Canada without a thought, as you do, 22.
Sure.
And
and had some children.
And had some children. I had 3 sons.
Yes. Yes. Very good.
And I only worked for a short time there for about 6 months doing secretary work for General Electric to earn some money to come back to Ireland for our first visit.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. And how long were you there in Canada?
10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
All right.
Then he decided to take us back. He was a teacher. Canada College, which was the kind of Eton of Toronto, Canada.
Yeah.
He decided to upgrade his degree to one in English literature, which he was actually teaching, and wanted to do it in England, and got a course at Leicester University in Victorian literature. And our marriage broke up under the strain of my not having any support, and it had not been good anyway, but
yes,
a straw, as it were.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So I stayed in England, he went back to Canada.
Okay. All right. So we're now on page 4 of your CV.
Right.
Ever lengthening. And so after a while, you met the love of your life.
Yes, I did. I met Atkinson.
Yes.
I was in my 40s by that time.
Yeah.
And so things were very different. And I knew, in fact, I had made a shopping list for, if I had to have a man in my life, I made a shopping list so that I actually made a choice instead of sitting around waiting to be chosen. So that was quite a lot of fun. And Brian ticked a lot of boxes.
Yes.
At his own profession, he was working for the Ministry of Defence. He was a top civil servant, and he had brains fit to bust. Yeah, very stimulating.
And did I read somewhere that he was an advisor to Ronald Reagan?
Well, he worked for SDI, which is Strategic Defence Initiatives, commonly known as Star Wars. And so then he would have been, he was technology director of that.
All right. Okay.
He did a lot of negotiations with the Americans.
And that brought you to a number of different places, didn't it?
Yes, it did. But by that time, you see, I was dealing in art. and I was exporting to the States a fair bit as well as other places. So I would go on a few of his US trips with him, business of my own at the same time.
Okay, okay. So when exactly did you become an art dealer and why?
Became an art dealer because the children were sort of away at school, beginning to be, and I needed to do something for myself and earn some more money. And I was on holiday in Spain, and an antique dealer there said to me, I believe pictures are very cheap in England. And I said, oh, well, I'll look into that. And I did, and I sold to him to start with, and then another dealer in another part of Spain, advertising in Antiques Gazette and so on. So I was then dealing in Victorian paintings.
Right. So you would you go to auctions and, you know,
Yes.
if they fitted your particular genre, you'd buy them?
Yes, I had to do a lot of research to start with to catch up with the other dealers and find out, you know, what I was buying and who the artists were and what was the best thing to buy and the market and all that sort of thing. So there was a lot of research to be done to start with. But to start with, I was going to Biddle and Webb's auctioneers in Birmingham because that was close by, and I didn't realize until quite quickly that it was full of crooks.
Yes.
And fakes. And
so you had to sharpen your skills.
Yes, you had to really find out what was what.
Yeah.
And not get hoodwinked.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you open your own gallery at some point?
Well, I moved down to Gloucestershire, and that's when I joined a choir, which is how I met Brian.
Okay.
I had been in a choir up in Leicestershire as well. In fact, I've been in choirs most of my life. And so this one down in Cheltenham was full of GCHQ people, and full of brains in every direction and languages and so on. So it was, you know, full of like-minded people with interesting things to talk about.
Yes, yes. And tell us about some of the countries that you visited with Brian.
Well,
because you had exhibitions as well, didn't you?
I had exhibitions as well, besides that, because I had a house in France, or at least a barn, a ruin in France, which was with Brian, we did up.
Lovely.
So I was going to France and Spain regularly, and then we would go to Washington quite a lot. So when I started painting seriously, which was around about 1980, 79, 80, it was about the same time that I opened my gallery then in Tetbury. Then I would exhibit my own paintings in with the stock, as it were, and with the contemporary artists that I started to represent when I had the gallery.
Yeah.
So I'd already had contacts in the States and so on. I got solo exhibitions in Washington at the Atlantic Gallery in Georgetown. And
Mexico?
Yeah, Mexico with Louise Morton and who else? Well, then when Brian got the job in NATO in The Hague, chief of one of the divisions, I got an exhibition in The Hague at Jan van Monsters.
Right. Yeah. And tell me, did your art dealing, your career as an art dealer, influence the work that you ended up doing for yourself? You know, in other words, could you identify things that were going to be more commercial than others?
I suppose
that influence you?
I mean, I had an eye for paintings anyway, but I was more, I suppose, influenced in my paintings by Bonnard and people like that, French painters perhaps, for colour, because most of the English artists I was dealing with, and I think quite a lot of them were rather afraid of colour, especially the watercolourists, who would be, you know, definitely too watery for me. And then you'd get people coming in, and I suppose this pointed up in my own mind, you've got people coming in with paintings which were very derivative and so on. And I would say to them, look, you've got to just don't look further than the end of your own nose and do what you want to do. And don't get, trying to be an old master or something like that.
Yes.
Or I knew myself that's what you should do anyway.
Yeah. And at what point did you give up the art dealing and just concentrate on your own painting?
Well, at the point of going with Brian to Holland, because I'd already refused to go with him to the States once, and I felt a bit guilty about that. So this time I'd better support him. And then put my money where my mouth is, where my own paintings are concerned. Right,
right. And you bought your present house in Bunclody, County Wexford. Yes. At what point? Was that when he retired?
When he retired? Well, yes, or a bit before that. It was more or less coincided with that, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And it was a mutual decision to come back to Ireland, was it? Or was it your decision?
He suddenly said, your mother's in Ireland and your sister. Why don't we look for a house there?
Yeah.
So I like houses anyway. I said, yes, okay.
And we'll have a look at your lovely house in a while.
Yes.
But before we do that, you have some very odd relations. Can we talk about your mad aunt?
Oh yes, my mad aunt's in California.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
In detail.
In detail. Well, she was, she had been my grandparents, my grandfather, she was actually half sister. She had two half sisters, my grandfather.
Yes.
Older than him. And of course, I didn't get to California very frequently. I only got to meet her when she was in her 80s. She had had 3 husbands, and she was very good looking, petite, a great horsewoman. And her first husband was somebody who was acceptable. Well, not really acceptable parents, but just barely. But he had a history of insanity in the family, and he began to go more and more peculiar. And so she left him, and she married somebody who was really acceptable to her parents, who was a member of the Burlingame Club and so on in San Francisco. And her parents were, very well known in San Francisco. But she left him for a ranch hand on her father's ranch, which was extremely unpopular, and her parents took her, Mimi, her daughter, away from her to bring them up themselves because they so disapproved of this alliance. So she went on to another ranch, and another ranch that belonged to her family, with this man who went down to Mexico to drive the cattle back. And she worked on the ranch. She cooked breakfast for all ranch hands and things like that. And she really adored him. But he died after about 10 years. I wouldn't be surprised if he died of drink, because actually Auntie was pickled in it. And she really drank a lot of whiskey.
Yes.
She took up with one of the ranch hands, George, who was 25 years younger than her. And in order to spite the rest of the family, married him so that he might inherit her money.
Right.
He used to go around in cowboy boots in San Francisco with a Stetson hat on, and generally looking the cowboy part. And he used to...
Did she go around in an open top car with some interesting passengers?
In younger years, in an open car with a tiger cub in the...
A tiger cub. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how long that lasted. I don't know how the upholstery of the car lasted, actually, but
yeah, they grow up eventually, don't they?
they do. Yes, they get a bit big.
Yes.
But I think that was before George.
All right.
And then George died. He did, which was a bit of a joke in the family. There were a lot more feeling about it, but he was such a bad influence on her one way and another. So when she went into hospital for one of her facelifts, Stanford University would come and visit her to make sure she was still going to leave them some money.
Oh.
Yeah, they behaved rather disgracefully. But
you could write a book.
Yes.
Couldn't you?
I could. Yeah.
And did you not have another mad aunt called Edith as well?
I had another one, the Irish one, yes.
Yeah. I mean, we might as well talk about them all.
Edith Boileau, yes, who never got married. She was one of my mother's aunts, right? Aunt Edith. They were both called Edith, both these, which was a great coincidence. And she was eccentric and rather mad, actually, Aunt Edith, and extremely bitter about life. But she ran a club in London for a bit during the war, I think it was, for officers' wives, which became the Sloane Club at the bottom of Lower Sloane Street.
Yes.
Which Brian and I joined then later in life when it became the Sloane Club.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Life is that peculiar, really.
Yeah. So bring us up to date. Unfortunately, Brian very sadly died.
Yes.
A year ago.
That's right.
And that left you devastated, I know.
It did. Yeah.
But you're heading off now after this exhibition. You're going over to France for a while.
Yes. Yeah. Because we bought a house in France. No, I had bought one way back, 1978, but it wasn't a house then. It was a barn full of straw and stuff. But after I got together with Brian, we did it up into a house.
Lovely. Yeah. And I think we'll see some views, won't we, on some of your paintings from there.
You will do, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go and have a look at your studio, because you don't actually have a studio. You have a house as a studio.
That's right.
And you use any part you can.
Yes. I've just moved around the house and chosen my subject in the house. And then you had a kind of hot set that you weren't allowed to disturb. Right.
Okay. So this is just a quick video of the house that your son Simon did for us.
Right. Yes.
It's only about a minute, and you can talk through it if you wish.
That's the driveway out. This is the music room, which has the piano in it, so that's why it's called that. And lots of lovely light. So there are. That's the Rogues Gallery, the family photographs.
Yes.
And
that's where you keep all your aunts.
Yes. And a couple of portraits of me. And a view out to the very rustic croquet lawn.
Yeah. Are you a keen gardener?
I'm a very keen gardener, yes. Love to do that. And some of the paintings there are leftovers from when I was dealing in painting.
Oh, right, okay.
And in there, that's the library behind, where the television is kept, and more pictures and more papers, and a view that papers have to be out in view, otherwise I forget I have to deal with them.
Yes. So this is set up as a studio here, isn't it?
This is set up for a picture, yes. There's a couple of paintings there by other people. Tom Epsley there at the end, that I bought from the New English Art Club in in
All
our
right.
in,
Yeah.
in London rather.
Okay.
And a couple of portraits of my father, which is, you can't really see over the Tiffany lamp there.
Yes.
My mother to the right over the other lamp, which I inherited from my aunt in California.
Okay. Okay. So let's take a look at some of your work now.
Right.
Right. You talk us through that.
That's Finzi, my cat that died a year or so ago, with some lilac. I used to stalk Finzi around the house, taking photographs of him so that I could do some paintings of him. He was very obliging, really.
And is this watercolor?
That's watercolor, yeah. Looking out onto the croquet lawn. Yeah. That's some, what I used to call Montbrisa, which is now called Crocosmia, growing in the garden with some ferns and the leaves. I like to do plants very close up, so you actually have your nose into them.
Yes.
And kind of feel you could walk through them.
What size would that be now, Josephine?
That painting is 14 inches by 20.
Okay. Okay. So would that be generally your sort of size, typical size?
Yes, that's typical, or 16 by 20 as well. Yeah. And that one is looking right up into the a maple tree we have in France. And I like going into that kind of detail. Yes. I
love the blues. I mean, you can just feel the heat, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the French sky. Yes. Yes,
very much so. Yeah. Gorgeous.
And that's a still life I did in France as well, from the roses in the garden. The idea was to put various vases together and again, getting as close as I could. So various containers and a bit of, I collect pieces of textile, fabric, and tend to, put them into pictures. Yes, yes. Yeah. There's another bit, that's a big scarf down the back of some rhododendrons and skimmia. And there again, I've got my nose in the middle of it, really. Yes. And tell me, would you sketch that out first with a pencil? Yes, I draw first and then, draw first in pencil and then paint. Yeah. On top of it. Okay. That's another one with a couple of different containers with the flowers in, and the fireplace is behind with a screen that I found in the... Oh, yes, you can make that out in the top. Yes, yeah. Yeah. Because our fireplace, can't use it anymore. It's got a hole in the chimney breast right up high. Oh, is this at home or in France? This is home in Bath, yes. Yeah. Now, here are two of the commission that you were given. Yes. Yeah, tell us about that. Well, that was when I think it was my first exhibition here in Kilcock, was Breda. And I was introduced to this man I didn't recognize, and he said, I would like you to paint in my house. And I said, oh, that's very nice of you. Where do you live? I was clueless really about who I was talking to. And it turned out to be Desmond Guinness. Yes. And Leixlip Castle. So over the next few years, I did 4 to start with, of interiors of his house, and then a couple of years later, another 4. And in the second 4 stayed with him and Penny in the house, and got included in their life, which was lovely, actually. Yeah. Stay with. So can you remember which scene this is? This is their drawing room. Extremely large room. And he told me where to sit. And he said, I want you to sit in this corner and I want you to get that door on the left and that door on the right. And I thought, okay. Yeah. I thought the only way I can do this is I put a ruler across the end of my nose and lined it up with the 2 doorways, bottoms of them, and worked out the perspective from there.
All right.
Because there was otherwise I couldn't actually see both doors at the same time. I had to turn my head.
Of course, yes, yes.
So.
And tell me, I love the rug. I think that's super.
Yes, it is a lovely rug.
The detail in that.
Yes,
and is this here? Is this a doll's house?
Yes, he collected large dolls' houses.
Did he?
And that's an Aubusson rug, I think. Yes, the doll's house is one of those ones he collected. And then other pictures. Because Desmond was a terrific supporter of the arts.
Yeah. And are they still in Leixlip Castle?
Yes, I believe
they are.
Yes, yes.
All right. Very good. And this is the second one I picked.
That's
the Brown Thomas bag, I've just noticed.
That one is my own dining room.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Well, I must have mixed it up.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's in my own one with that arched doorway going up the stairs.
Yes.
So it's really the dining hall.
Yeah.
In my own house has a couple of things from the East in it. That cupboard over there in the corner is from India, but from Goa, where the Portuguese did decorations. It's got Portuguese decorations on the door.
Mm-hmm. And I love the richness of your colors there. And presumably is this watercolor also?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I know I like rich colors, and I found that wallpaper because I had to choose the decorations from when we were in Holland. I was still in Holland when we bought this house and when we were doing. So I was using wallpaper and stuff in there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. Now this is France, I know.
That's France, yes.
And Brian's hat.
And Brian's hat, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And the chair he used to sit in, we used to have tea, afternoon tea. I'm a great believer in afternoon tea.
Are you? Yes.
Proper cups and things, no mugs.
No.
Proper teapot.
You wouldn't last long in my house, I can tell you.
I got friends who dig out their one and only teacup and saucer.
Yes.
And then he'd sit in that chair, Brian would sit in the chair opposite, and we'd have the tray on that table there.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
wonderful. And of course, your exhibition is called Personal Memories, isn't it?
Yes, it's called.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's again, it's in France in the main room.
Mm-hmm.
And has lots of things in that bag at the bottom is the one that I keep my tapestry walls in when I'm doing tapestry in front of the television.
Yes, yes. I mean, you've from being a derelict barn, you've obviously done a hell of a lot of work.
Yes. Oh yes, we had.
Did that take a long time?
It took a few years. We took a few years over it. First of all, we had to make it weatherproof, and then start doing the inside, and so everything had to be done: the floors, the ceilings, everything, absolutely everything.
Fantastic.
It was enjoyable times.
Yeah.
So that's looking at.
Excuse me.
Looking at the back from the sunroom we put on at the back.
Yeah.
So I used to put things, set up subjects on the windowsill, and then I didn't paint the window divisions, which were sliding glazed windows.
Yes.
I just left those out and painted something on the windowsill so I could get the view outside properly.
Lovely. And you've got that gorgeous blue again, that warm blue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Beautiful.
It's a mixture of cerulean and cobalt blue.
Is it? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, so I did a series of teacup paintings over the years. And I set them up in front of books and things, which has interested a lot of people because they like reading the titles of the books as well as looking at the teacups, and then hanging something at the back as a backdrop.
Yes, yes.
So there would be a number of different elements in those.
Hmm.
That one's called Bull in a bookshelf. It's just a joke, really. But there's
Not the bull.
There is a bull.
It took me a while.
There is a bull at the bottom left of the picture, peeking out between the books.
That's right.
And
was this a commission, a free commission for your son? Did I believe here?
Well, it fell on after that.
Okay.
I didn't paint for a few months after Brian died.
Yes.
And my daughter-in-law came up with the idea of asking me to do a painting for them for their bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, and then Simon said, it needs to fit in with the other two pictures, which were both kind of still lives or that type of thing, and books in. So he said, I want books in it. And so I settled on just going to the bookshelf in Ireland and opening the door. It's a glazed bookshelf, and doing that and putting some bits of china in between. So I did that one for them, and it was 30. It had to fit a frame they already had. So 30 by 20.
Yes.
Stretching my arms up and everything, because I don't paint standing up. My feet get too soft. So I was having to keep on moving the easel up and down, basically.
Yeah.
To reach. Yeah. But that painting, and it had to be oil because of the frame they wanted. So that was a success, really. I enjoyed doing that, and I went on to do a couple more. So I did this one in France, and it's the bookshelf is beside the window. You can see the glazing bars down at the right.
You can.
In the embrasure, and that shelf has, if I'm right, has biography on it. So,
all right. Okay. It's. Do you know what I find very interesting? It's almost difficult to distinguish between your oils and your watercolors because they're very similar in their execution. Well,
I had to work out how to paint in oils myself from scratch. I'd had a bit of training in it, but very little. So I kind of worked it out, and by trial and error, and made some horrible paintings while I was actually trying it out, but eventually settled on using sable brushes mainly.
Okay.
And, building it up as you do in oils.
Sure.
And of course, you have to think inside out if you've been doing watercolors, which I had been doing before, in terms of using the paint, and in terms of what you do for everything is backwards and inside out. Yeah. Watercolor.
Yes, that's
but
true.
It was very stimulating to learn how to do it properly.
Yeah. Very good. There's a couple of comments now coming in, and then we'll open it out to people to ask their questions themselves.
Right.
Malachi Heffen says, I think there's more than one book here. Thanks, Josephine. Thank you, and Alan. I think that's referring to the bookcase.
Oh, yes.
I think I might have missed that. Sorry. Stephanie McLaughlin says, I love the way you capture the light. Definitely hints of Bonheur there in these paintings. Congratulations.
That's very flattering.
Yeah. Trina says, the sunlight through the sunroom window, stunning. Beautiful. Really lovely. Yeah.
That's what I try to get.
Yeah, yeah. Yvonne Maloney O'Keefe says, great eye for detail. And Carol says, just beautiful. Very good. Okay, we're going to open it out to the floor. And anyone would like to ask a question in person. So please do put on your camera if you can.
Can I ask a question? Can you hear
can,
me?
Of course, Carol. Yeah, can hear you.
I just wondered, could you hear me? Because sometimes I get a bit dithery over this computer. Well, I can't.
You're fine.
Hello, Josephine. That was beautiful, lovely talking. I could relate an awful lot to what you were saying about going to college. Well, my father didn't want me to go. He did a lot of work in Rossborough House and a lot of the old houses around Ireland. But Jules was really a really good memory, with my mother bringing the three of us in to have our hair cut. I had two sisters up to the ears. But anyway, to go to your commissions, I've done a few commissions and I don't sleep at night sometimes. It must have been incredibly pressurized.
Yes, I stayed there for a week, the inside of a week, and just worked from 9 in the morning until it got too dark in the evening. And they gave me meals and so on. And it was very intensive. But Desmond was very good about not interfering.
Yeah.
And set me up and told me what he wanted. He would then just, not say anything until it was finished. And then there would be a bit of a deadline at the end of the week and slight panic, especially with the drawing room, which was so big, paint. I was worried about getting it actually finished.
Incredible. Beautiful detail.
Isn't it lovely?
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for that, Carol. Morris Quillinan says, fascinating story, fabulous work. And Catherine Green says, and I agree with her, a series of paintings with a book of your life would be so interesting.
Yeah.
And everyone's nodding. Yeah.
Yes.
Eileen says, very interesting life and lovely work. Yeah, would you consider that, Josephine?
Well, I am actually going through my diaries, which I kept intermittently, and sort of indexing them and things like that. I don't know, at some of it, I quite like my children. I mean, I'd quite like to be dead.
You should write it first, though.
Some of it's not that repeatable, perhaps, but everybody's life has times like that, don't they? That you don't mind your friends knowing about, but your children's another matter.
Sure. Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, I understand. All right. Anybody else like to ask a question?
I wanted to know how long the exhibition will be in Kilcock, because I'd love to go and see it.
Josephine or Breda?
Breda, what?
The 30th.
The 30th, until the 30th.
Okay, that's great. Hope to be there.
So,
Good.
and it's if the official opening is what time this afternoon? Is it 2 o'clock? Yeah. Okay, and so you've got a whole month to see it, but it's a wonderful exhibition. How many pieces do you have in it?
41.
Ooh, okay.
More than usual because of the pandemic sort of building more work up.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Going to USA.
Oh yes, the bull in the bookshop, bookshelves that you were looking at, the pink one.
Yeah.
Has just been sold to the States.
Congratulations.
Yeah, very good. Marilyn North says, Trevor, it's such an interesting life story and beautiful work. Thanks, Marilyn.
Alan,
Yes.
apart from the pictures are wonderful, but the eclectic collection of books
Oh yes.
will send me off to the physiotherapist next week, trying to read the titles and.
Oh yes.
Well, Seamus, you can't talk with all that behind you.
You've got loads of books there. Yeah. Well, both my husband and I are voracious readers, and on lots of different subjects. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Seamus.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Josephine, will you be there at the end of the exhibition? I don't get back to Ireland until the 28th, but I have to go down to the Midlands. So I'll drop by.
Well, I think I won't be here because I'm going to France.
Oh, of course, sorry, silly me. Yeah.
But you can come and see me if you want.
Yeah.
Come to the gallery afterwards. There'll be plenty of paintings here still.
Yeah. You're an amazing woman.
Thank you very much. But I'd be happy if you contacted me. That's fine.
Okay.
Listen, Josephine, that's been wonderful. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you very much. I know some people will be very interested to know, because you're having a birthday coming up soon, what age you are. And I know I've cleared this with you, so it's not an ungentlemanly question to ask.
No, I'm 80.
Wow.
And looking amazing.
It's incredible.
Looking amazing. Oh, there's John. Hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah.
Morning.
Did you want to ask a question, John, before we finish?
No, I'd just like to say that I love the interiors and the beautiful paintings. Well done. And I wish you'd come here and paint my interior for me.
Well, where do you live? That's the point. I can do that. Depends where you live.
I live in Cove in County Cork.
Oh, do you? Okay.
It's a beautiful place to visit.
I wasn't able to do that in the last few years of Brian's life, but I would be free to do it again now.
Where do you live yourself?
In Bunclody, County Wexford.
Oh, right. That's where my mum's from.
Oh, right. All right.
There you are.
So if you're coming to Cork, come and visit me. I do have a gallery here, so you're very welcome to come and visit.
Okay. All right. That sounds nice.
Okay, thanks for that, John.
Well
Take
done,
care.
Alan. Well done. And finally, get up on time to see your show.
Good man. Good man. Yes, took a while to convince you.
Well, I'm single again now. It's easier.
I see. All right. We won't go into that at the moment. Excellent. Okay. Listen, everybody, thanks very much for joining us this morning. There will not be an Artist Well next Saturday because I've got another workshop, portrait drawing workshop in the United Arts Club. And while we're talking about the United Arts Club, a lot of you I know will be very interested that the past president of the Arts Club and the past president of the RHA, Thomas Ryan, we're doing an exhibition in the Arts Club starting on Friday the 8th, which is next Friday, the 8th of April. And it will show works by Thomas Ryan and also will include artists James English, Carmel Mooney, and George Walsh. Right, so that's coming up after the Una Waters one that I mentioned. And I think you'll find that a very, very interesting exhibition to attend. So it'll be on for just 3 weeks, I think.
Is there a launch? Is there an opening we can go to?
There is. It's on the 8th, and it's at 7 p.m. and Kieran Carty is doing the opening.
I might
Okay.
come up.
So you're all very welcome to attend that. So yeah, that'll be good. All right. So look, again, thank you very much. Josephine, thank you so much. I wish you every success in the future. And I hope you enjoy your time in France as well. And I look forward to meeting you at some stage in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay. And very best of luck with the exhibition and to Breda Smith as well.
Yes.
For facilitating this. And so we'll pop down hopefully before the end of the month.
Lovely. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much. Bye,
See you
everyone.
soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks very much. Really wonderful.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yes, superb.